Where you begin is almost irrelevant. The universe we live in will never return to its original form, and that's okay. We survived. We, humans. Before we were surrounded by countless alien species and vast empires, we were just a loud, naive, clumsy civilization dreaming of the stars. But now, we're here. Not that we ever wanted to be what we are. Yet our story is different. We survived something that set us apart from all the other masses in the endless void. We didn't give up. We are human. It all started with war. But not the kind of war you're used to hearing about. Not the wars between nations on Earth. No, this was a war with the very universe itself. And we were the ones who decided to stand against it. Without superhuman powers, without the advanced technology that other races wielded, we had only one thing: our will to survive, to adapt, to outsmart and outlast the impossible. It started with the Tsaraks. They arrived without warning. Enormous dark ships that cast ominous shadows over entire planets. The Tsaraks were a race older than time itself, their empire stretching across galaxies, their technology far beyond anything humanity could even dream of. Their intentions were clear. They came to conquer. And they started with us, a small, fragile species struggling on the fringes of a galaxy they had long since abandoned, assuming we would fall like so many others. At first, it seemed like a death sentence. Their ships dwarfed ours. Their fleets were insurmountable. Their weapons were destructive on a scale we could hardly comprehend. We were weak, vulnerable. The Tsaraks tore through our colonies with ruthless efficiency. They didn't just conquer, they annihilated. Planets were swallowed whole, their populations decimated in moments. We had nothing that could stand up to them. But we fought back, and that was something the Tsaraks didn't understand. They couldn't fathom that we might have something more than technology. They didn't realize that what made us dangerous wasn't our machines, our ships, or our weapons. It was something far more terrifying. It was our resilience. It was in the darkest corners of Earth, where humanity's last hope was quietly being formed, that a small group of brilliant minds began to work. Scientists, engineers, military strategists, all with a singular mission: to fight back. They knew that we had no chance in a direct confrontation. The Tsaraks were too strong, too advanced. But they also knew something that no one else did. We were capable of far more than anyone had ever expected. Our greatest strength wasn't in our technology, but in our adaptability. If we could survive, if we could evolve faster than the Tsaraks could react, we just might stand a chance. Using the most basic of our scientific principles, they began to develop a weapon that no one thought possible. It wasn't a weapon that could destroy a fleet in one strike. No. It was a weapon that could manipulate the very fabric of the universe. Gravitational waves. With a small team working in secret, they learned to bend gravity to their will. At first, it was unstable. Then it was deadly. Soon we had technology that could disrupt the Tsaraks' own gravimetric fields. It was our first victory. Subtle, silent, but deadly. It wasn't about brute force anymore. It was about using the universe itself as a weapon. The first major battle took place at Proxima Centauri, and it was unlike anything anyone had ever seen. The Tsaraks, confident in their superiority, underestimated our resolve. They didn't anticipate that we could use their own gravitational pull against them. The battle didn't unfold like any other. They didn't see it coming. Their massive warships, once unstoppable, found themselves crippled by invisible forces. Gravity itself became our ally, and the Tsaraks were thrown into chaos. For the first time, they experienced something they had never anticipated. The very universe they controlled turned against them. It was a turning point. The Tsaraks retreated. They regrouped, they learned, and they attacked again. But we were ready. Each battle, each confrontation taught us more. With every victory, our technology improved, our tactics became sharper, and our unity grew stronger. The Xareks, for all their technological might, could never match our ingenuity. They relied on their technology. We relied on ourselves. But the Xareks weren't the only threat. Other alien races, drawn by the Xarek's call, began to converge on our galaxy. A coalition of the galaxy's mightiest empires sought to crush us. They saw what we had done to the Xareks and knew that if humanity was allowed to survive, it could be the end of their dominance. The galaxy was a game of power, and humanity was a wild card they couldn't predict. The new invaders brought with them ships and technologies that made the Xareks look primitive by comparison. Their firepower was immense. Their fleets were endless. They descended upon us like a tidal wave, a storm that threatened to drown us in its wake. And yet, we stood firm. Every defeat, every setback, made us stronger. Every enemy that attacked only pushed us to grow more creative, more desperate, more determined. We adapted. We invented new technologies. We forged alliances where we could, but we never relied on them. We learned to fight smarter, not harder. We exploited weaknesses where they thought there were none. We fought in the dark. We fought in the void. We fought in the cold silence of space, and we fought on the ground with our backs to the wall, surrounded by our enemies. But the greatest weapon we had was our ability to change, to evolve. We weren't just surviving anymore. We were building something no other race in the galaxy had. A future. We fought because we wanted to live, but also because we wanted something more. We wanted a universe where we could stand on equal footing with the very races that sought to destroy us. And we knew that if we could survive this war, we could do anything. The Xareks were the first to break. Once, they had been the conquerors, the masters of galaxies. But as their empire crumbled, they were forced to retreat into the shadows. They were no longer the unstoppable force they had once been. And with their fall, others began to question their own place in the galaxy. Humanity had shown them that no one was invincible, not even the oldest empires. We didn't conquer the universe. We didn't seek to dominate. We simply sought to survive. But in our survival, we became more. We became something that no one could ignore. We became the architects of a new order. The Xareks were no longer the ones calling the shots. The galaxy, once divided and ruled by alien empires, now had a new center of power: Earth. Part 2. The Dawn of a New Order. We didn't claim the stars as conquerors, but as survivors. We didn't conquer the alien empires, but we made them respect us. The universe, vast and uncaring, had tested us, and we had passed. We had learned to fight, to adapt, to grow. And in the end, we had won. The greatest truth of all was this: we were human, and that, in the end, made all the difference. We were a species capable of more than anyone had ever thought possible. And in our survival, we forged a future that no one else could imagine. And so, as the dust of battle settled, we stood at the center of a new galaxy. Not as the most powerful, not as the most advanced, but as something far more dangerous: the unexpected victors. The universe had changed, and it was our time. The adventure was just beginning. Humanity's new era had begun, and we were no longer seen as the underdogs. We were the unpredictable force, the wild card no one could foresee. Our evolution was just beginning, and in time the galaxy would be reshaped by our hands. The stars were not ours to conquer, but ours to thrive within. And in that new era, as the very fabric of the universe began to shift, the question remained: what would humanity do with its newfound power? The dust of battle had finally settled. The galaxies were forever altered, but the fight was far from over. Humanity had emerged victorious, but that victory came with a heavy price. In the wake of the Tsarik's defeat, a void was left in the galactic order, and in that emptiness, other powers began to stir. The struggle for control was not over. Earth had risen from the ashes, but its place in the galaxy was still precarious. Humanity had survived, yes, but now we had to learn to live in this new galaxy. A galaxy where we were no longer the underdogs, no longer the vulnerable species hidden away on a lonely planet. We were something different now. We were a power in our own right. The rest of the universe had seen what we were capable of, and while they had learned to respect us, respect was not enough. There were those who feared us, and those who sought to use us for their own gain. In the wake of the Tsarik's retreat, a new alliance began to form. Alien races, once united under the banner of the Tsarik Empire, found themselves struggling to fill the void. Among them was the Asiri, a race of technological geniuses who had long kept to the shadows, preferring their isolation to the politics of the galaxy. They were powerful, but their intelligence had always set them apart from others. Then there were the Braka, a fierce warrior race with a deep-rooted disdain for humanity. They resented our rise to prominence and had been licking their wounds after their defeat at the hands of the Tsariks. To them, humanity was nothing more than a nuisance, a mere speck in a galaxy full of true power. But not all races were so hostile. The Glaciari, a peaceful and diplomatic species with a vast knowledge of galactic history, approached Earth in a spirit of cooperation. They saw the potential for a lasting alliance, one that could reshape the future of the galaxy. They believed humanity's rise was not merely a fluke, but a sign of something deeper, something new in the fabric of the universe. The Glaciari offered us an opportunity to expand our knowledge and resources in exchange for a place at the table of the Galactic Council. They understood that the universe was vast and unpredictable, and they knew that having humanity on their side could tip the balance of power in favor of those who valued peace over conquest. Yet, as much as the Glaciari sought unity, there were other forces at play, forces that wanted to keep humanity at the periphery. The Braka, the Asiri, and the Kaltori, another aggressive empire, were united in their desire to see humanity fall back into obscurity. They sought to undermine Earth's rise by stoking distrust and fear among other races, by sabotaging the fragile alliances humanity had begun to form. It became clear that peace would not come easily. The days of open war with the Tsaraks may have ended, but the future was uncertain. The galaxy was on the brink of a new conflict, one that would determine whether humanity could thrive as an equal power, or whether we would be cast down into the same oblivion that had once threatened our species. As Earth's government consolidated its newfound power, a small but influential faction known as the Horizon Group began to take shape. Composed of human diplomats, military strategists, and influential business leaders, the Horizon Group was dedicated to maintaining humanity's autonomy and ensuring its place among the stars. They knew that in this galaxy, survival wasn't just about fighting the wars of the past. It was about preparing for the wars of the future. And so, with the first steps of peace, there was the looming shadow of war. Humanity was learning the art of diplomacy, but we were also preparing for the inevitable storm. The universe had tested us before, and we had come out on top. But we knew, if we were to survive, we had to stay one step ahead. Every move, every decision, every alliance would be a calculated risk. And the future of humanity depended on the choices we made today. The first major test of humanity's new role in the galaxy came not from any of the external threats, but from within. While the Horizon Group worked tirelessly to stabilize Earth's position in galactic politics, an internal crisis threatened to undo everything that had been achieved. The truth was, humanity was divided. On one side, there were the idealists, those who saw the victory over the Tsariks as a sign that humanity was destined to lead the galaxy. They argued for expansion, for taking control of more systems, for establishing Earth as the capital of a new interstellar empire. They were willing to use force if necessary to claim their place at the top of the galactic hierarchy. On the other side, there were the pragmatists, those who believed humanity's strength lay in cooperation and diplomacy. They warned against repeating the mistakes of the past, arguing that expansion at the cost of other species would lead to further conflict, perhaps even the collapse of the fragile alliances that had begun to form. They called for restraint, for building trust, and for developing a lasting peace through negotiation rather than conquest. At the heart of this conflict was the human military. The military had been the backbone of the resistance during the war with the Tsaraks. It was the military that had developed the gravimetric technology, the one that had fought on every front, and it was the military that had won humanity's place among the stars. Yet, in the new era of diplomacy, the military's role was unclear. Should they be the peacekeepers, the enforcers of order in the galaxy, or should they return to their roots and continue as the warriors they once were? The debates in the human Senate grew heated. There were those who saw the military as the only true guarantee of humanity's survival, and they pushed for greater military influence. Others believed that the military's power should be curbed to prevent the rise of an authoritarian regime that could undo the hard-won gains of the war. As the debate raged on, the Horizon Group remained determined to secure humanity's future through peaceful means, but even they knew that war was never far behind. The galaxy was a powder keg, and Earth was the match. And so, under the surface of this diplomatic struggle, a new covert war was beginning. This wasn't a war of armies, but a war of ideologies. The factions within humanity were beginning to clash, and the ultimate question was clear. What kind of future would humanity choose? Meanwhile, in the Galactic Council, the Glaciari worked hard to mediate the rising tensions, but their efforts were constantly undermined by the Bracca, the Asiri, and the Kaltori. They saw humanity's rise as a threat to their own positions of power and sought to exploit humanity's internal strife. If humanity could not unify, they reasoned, then the galaxy would remain theirs to control. It was in this climate of instability that an unexpected figure emerged. Admiral Kira Vale, a decorated war hero and one of humanity's most respected military leaders. Vale was a staunch pragmatist, deeply committed to the idea that humanity could be both strong and peaceful. She had seen the horrors of war firsthand, but she also knew that there were times when peace had to be enforced, when strength was required to protect the vulnerable. Admiral Vale proposed a new approach, an approach that would blend the strength of humanity's military with the ideals of diplomacy. She called it the Unified Front. Her vision was of a galaxy where humanity stood as a leader, but where strength was used as a last resort, where diplomacy was always the first option. It was an idea that captured the imagination of the people and swayed the balance in favor of the pragmatists. But the forces against her were strong. As Vale sought to unite humanity in the pursuit of peace, there were still those who wanted nothing more than to conquer, to expand, and to push humanity's influence across the stars. With the internal divisions threatening to tear humanity apart, the galactic stage was becoming even more treacherous. The forces against us were more than just the Bracca, Asiri, and Kaltori. The universe itself had shifted, and the political landscape was in flux. The Glaciari, though well-intentioned, were no longer able to keep the peace. The factions that had once stood united under the Tsaraks were now fractured, each vying for power in a galaxy that was slowly starting to embrace the idea of human leadership. The Galactic Council itself, once a symbol of unity, was now a battleground of shifting allegiances. The Asiri and Kaltori began to form alliances of their own, rallying behind the idea of resisting humanity's influence. They spread propaganda, claiming that humanity's rise was not the result of destiny, but of brute force and manipulation. They accused us of seeking domination and sought to rally the other races to their cause. Meanwhile, the Horizon Group, with Admiral Vale at its forefront, continued to push for diplomacy, pushing the message that humanity's power would not be wielded for conquest, but for the preservation of peace. But peace was a fragile thing in the galaxy. There were too many who still saw us as a threat, too many who feared what we had become. As the political tension escalated, humanity was faced with an inevitable choice. Would we continue down the path of diplomacy and compromise, hoping for unity in a fractured galaxy? Or would we be forced to defend our position in the stars, to fight for the peace we so desperately desired? The answers were not clear, but one thing was certain. Humanity had come too far to simply fade into the background again. The universe had been tested, and we had proven our worth. But the true battle was just beginning. The galaxy was on the cusp of a new era, and humanity's role in it would be decided by the choices we made.